Good morning. The committee will come to order. Will commissioners, staff, and guests please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Limited public comment. At this time, any member of the public wishing to address the committee may do so for up to 3 minutes.
I'll start off on a good note here. Got a very nice letter from Stephen G. Storrs to reference the corrections staff. Sheriff Leaf, I have a client that was in your custody at the Berry County Jail for 60 days during the early part of 2018. I also handled cases for her in other counties. She recently wrote me with her frustrations following the death of an inmate in another county jail because she believes that she was treated poorly while she was in custody there. In her letter, she wrote the following regarding the stay at Berry County. I'm a jail success and appreciate, this is a quote from his client, okay? I'm a jail success and appreciate the justice system when they are doing their job and not being a system for themselves where they don't want you to succeed. I've been to a lot of county jails. I've been to a lot of county jails. Berry County believes in it's never too late to change. And I give a huge part of my sobriety and drive to everyone in that jail, from the sergeants to mental health and AA. And she specifically mentions Zach, the CEO, who didn't care why I was there. All he cared about was in his hands and pushing me through at the detoxing and almost killed me. But I quote Zach, "You won't die, not on my watch, not in my care." She has now been sober for over a year, has regained custody of her children, and was recently married. I realize the negative aspects that your staff deals with on a daily basis. I wanted to forward this compliment from a former inmate and hope that you can share with your staff that they are making a difference in people's lives. Thank you. So, I thought it was a very nice letter. Just reiterating, we got an awesome correction staff. All right. Thanks.
Sheriff Leaf. Any other persons interested in public comment? Seeing none, here to present our next item is Bill Voigt. At this time, the chair would entertain a motion to recommend to the Board of Commissioners adoption of Resolution 19-4, fiscal year 2020 resolution of intent to apply for state and federal operating and capital assistance for the 2020 fiscal year, and approval to appoint William Voigt as a transportation coordinator authorized to provide such information as deemed necessary by the State Transportation Commission or Department for its administration of Act 51, and to sign and execute all agreements and documents.
So moved. Support.
Moved by Parker, supported by Gibson.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Well, it is time to file our annual application again for fiscal year 2020, and so we're here to ask your consent to do so. We had a good year last year. It's looking like, numbers-wise, it was probably our second largest ridership ever, and we look forward to continuing that. It's an exciting year as we're going through the process for our renovation right now. We've got some administrative duties going on. Bid packages are out, and we will be entertaining contractors at the Transit for a walkthrough on January 22nd, and then public opening of the bids will be on January 31st. So we hope to break ground, I think, end of March is the way it's looking. But just wanted to update you on that. Things are going very, very well. We love what we do, and we would appreciate your authorization to continue.
Does anybody have any questions for Mr. Voigt?
I guess I do have one. How many of these have you done now, Bill?
5, John.
5? Thank you.
It's hard to believe it's another year gone by, but yeah. The total request, especially in terms of the capital that we're requesting, is higher than usual, but that's, in a sense, that's a good thing. That capital request portion of this application, which is for operating expenses and capital. That is, of course, buses. And in 2020, as luck would have it, virtually every vehicle in our fleet will have exceeded its useful life in terms of age or miles, according to the state guidelines, and that means they're all eligible. So we have our fingers crossed there. Those buses are provided at no cost to Berry County taxpayers. So there's a good chance that we can minimize some of our maintenance costs and get some of that fleet rotated out in 2020. So that's the reason for that higher capital number that you'll see there. But
Any other questions? There being no further discussion, the question before the committee is to recommend to the Board of Commissioners adoption of Resolution 19-4, fiscal year 2020 resolution of intent to apply for state and federal operating and capital assistance for the 2020 fiscal year, and to appoint and approval to appoint William Voigt as a transportation coordinator authorized to provide such information as deemed necessary by the State Transportation Commission or department for its administration of Act 51, and to sign and execute all agreements and documents. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next on our agenda is Carrie Selleck. At this time, the chair would entertain a motion to recommend to the Board of Commissioners approval of the attached 2019 contracts for the Indigent Defense Council services with Jackie Baker Sturgis, Carol Dwyer, Shane Henry, Kristen, I'm going to slaughter that. Hool. James Kinney, Gordon Shane McNeil, Ronald Pierce, Catherine Russell, Stephen Storrs, and Kimberly Young. Is there support?
So moved. Second.
It's been moved by Commissioner Jackson, second by Parker. And Carrie, the floor is yours.
Thank you. One of the first things, obviously, we have to do in setting up this new office is having our contract attorneys. And so there were applications that were provided and submitted. 11 applications were submitted. These 10 were chosen based on court performance, conversations with court staff, their preparedness, my own observations, their experience, their qualifications. The indigent defense contract that was submitted, or that was signed by all of them, is essentially the same contract that the trial court has used. The only difference being that the standard language that MIDC has set out for us was included in the contract, so each attorney knew ahead of time what would be required of them in terms of the new standards and the new requirements. These 10 attorneys are all very well qualified, have gotten high praise from those in the court staff that I spoke to, and have been doing very well.
Do any of the commissioners have questions for Carrie?
Sounds like you got to do a lot of research, though.
You do, and these attorneys are all very well versed in how to do that, and our office has been made available to any of them. There is Shane Henry is the newest attorney on the list. He has 10 exceptional mentors, with myself included, and he's also in a law firm with very experienced attorneys. So he's been taken under everybody's wing, and he's doing very well. So they're all doing well.
Do you lose? Is there a percentage that you lose during the year at all?
For attorneys?
Yeah.
Not usually. The 12 years that I was on the list, no one left voluntarily.
Oh, okay.
Any other questions?
Yeah, Carrie, just to back this out a little bit, and why the number 10? Where do we come up with?
The number 10, that our list has been at 10 for a very long time since I've been on the list. 10 is a good number for the caseloads that we have. It keeps everybody's caseload reasonable, yet still gives them enough cases to make it financially, I guess, worth their time in some respects. We don't have huge caseloads here. I think each attorney averages between 50 and 60 cases per year, and that includes felony cases, misdemeanor cases, probation violations. So when we wrote the compliance plan, we submitted it with 10 attorneys, as that's kind of what we've always had, and that's what has worked. And so there was really no reason to change that at this point, unless we see a dramatic increase or decrease in our caseloads. 10 has always been a good number.
Okay, and you said for these 10 attorneys, the average caseload is going to be between 50 and 60?
50 and 60 cases, looking at the past couple of years, that's about what we have done. And I will say that is well below the new set of standards that are not yet approved by MIDC, caps caseloads at 150 cases. We're well below that, so that's not a standard that we're going to have any issues complying with. We're already in compliance with it. But it averages out to about 50 to 60 cases. Again, it depends on the year and the types of cases that come up.
Okay, so that number of 325,000, that's based on past as far as?
Correct. That was what was budgeted based on when the compliance plan was drafted. We had to look at specific sets of numbers. The court did Inez Straub did when we were looking at base pay for the attorneys. And it's a bit more than what the county used to fund for the trial court, but it's not a huge increase.
Okay. Is there state or federal reimbursement for that, or is that strictly on the county?
The $325,000 is part of the state grant.
Okay.
None of that is the local share. The attorney costs for the flat fee rate, reimbursement for arraignment appearance, and initial interviews all comes from the state grant part.
Okay, awesome. Thank you.
Any other questions? Seeing none. The question before the committee is to recommend to the Board of Commissioners approval of the attached 2019 contracts for Indigent Defense Council services with Jackie Baker Sturgis, Carol Dwyer, Shane Henry, Kristen Houle, James Kinney, Gordon Shane McNeil, Ronald Pierce, Catherine Russell, Stephen Storrs, and Kimberly Young. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay.
Nay.
The item is approved. Here to present the next item is Michelle Newton. Yep. At this time, the chair would entertain a motion to recommend to the Board of Commissioners approval to spend up to $6,600 to replace furniture in one probation office, the probation office reception, and one overhead storage unit to a third probation office area, with funds to be paid from the capital replacement fund.
So moved.
Support.
Been moved and supported. Gibson and Jackson.
Morning.
Michelle.
I have not appeared before you in my capacity as a supervisor yet. So I wanted to give you a little bit of background, and that's one of the attachments. Allegan, Berry, Kent, Ionia, Macomb, Muskegon, Ottawa counties comprise the Region 4B for the Grand Rapids area. Our office is part of that. We currently have one supervisor staff, one clerical, and 7 agents. To date, the approximate cost for the state to fund these positions is about $961,000. That includes fringe benefits, salary, pensions, and training. The cost to providing software, computers, tech support for the 9 positions is about $10,000 conservatively. We supervised approximately 283 offenders as of the end of last year. We have 237 probationers and 46 parolees at that time. We produce about 23 pre-sentences a month. That's a term paper to the courts regarding sentencing recommendations and background history for each of the offenders that are sentenced in circuit court. We also attend about 13 violations a month for probation, minimally. Last year, we took 875 drug tests, and of those, overall, about 3% were positive. And of that 3%, meth is still king in Berry County. Our average workload is 94.9 units for each of the 7 agents. Statewide average is between 87 and 96, so we fall in the statewide average. The agents that are assigned to the office supervise sex offenders, probation sex offenders, parole. They also do scram and curfew tether supervision for the courts, as well as drug court, interstate cases, and swift and sure sanctions programs. Currently, there's a straddle cell prison commitment rate for Berry County of 30%. The average statewide is 23%, so we will be working on that heavily in the next year to come. We currently have treatment programs including drug court, outpatient substance abuse services through Berry County Substance Abuse Services, Pine Rest, Catholic Charities, and Secure Counseling. We also have domestic violence through Secure Counseling and Catholic Charities, sex offender therapy through Burgess Psychological. Special activities include Nighthawk, where the agents go out in the evenings and check on our offenders and make sure that they're home during curfew or that there's not anything going on in their homes in the evenings. We also meet for sex offender case management teams and prisoner reentry services, also known as Offender Success. Challenges for our offenders currently continue to be transportation and housing. The state continues to provide a state vehicle for the agent's use, including maintenance and repair. We've participated in the state employees combined campaign for United Way, collecting over $1,100 for Berry County United Way Veteran Services and the United Way Toy Drive. We continue to provide community service work and are looking for projects in the future. So if any of your townships have projects that you might need assistance with, we can bring an agent and or along with some offenders to help out with those projects. The staff is likely to continue to grow, and there's currently just one additional office in our space for future growth. After that's filled, we have no other space to expand to. In that vein, it's recognized that the county budget for the probation office was reduced. It is requested that some additional funding be allocated to be increased to help support the positions that are currently in place. The staff of Berry County Probation and Parole continues to work for the citizens of Berry County to provide safety of the community through the very best service for clients and citizens. We also have, we were not included in the last round of copiers, so our copier is quite old. It's under maintenance agreement. However, it has been having more maintenance calls than probably is normal for the age of it. So it's been taxed, and we probably will need funding for that in the future as well. Any questions that anyone has?
Commissioner Schmelker.
On the furniture, how long have you been, has probation been where it's at? And have you ever got any new furniture?
We did get new furniture for most of the office, but for what I'm requesting. In 2006, the furniture in all the agents' positions or offices was replaced. So that is steel case. It's holding up very well. There was a quote attached also perhaps for the steel case to be purchased for the areas that still need furniture, and it was very high. I would agree that it was very high. We got a second quote from another vendor who is also, I think, doing the furniture for the OCC area, and that was considerably less. It's the same type of furniture that I had when we ordered furniture over in Allegan. It's very sufficient. We can get it to semi-match the style that we already have, but the furniture that's currently in the reception area was there before I began in Berry County in 1997. So it's pre-computer, and it isn't very conducive ergonomically. So it is difficult for this, for the receptionist and our drug tech to maneuver in that space because it's kind of cluttered. There's too much of it. It's very bulky. The estimate that we got from the vendor that was less has less bulk to it, and it would be much easier to maneuver in that small space.
Thank you very much.
The office has been in place in that area since the building was built. So, and while the offices need some minor paint and such what, we are a growing staff, and eventually we will outgrow that space.
Thank you.
Any other questions? So, given your staff is growing, if you get additional space or have to maneuver the stuff that you are ordering, are you going to be able to move it into a different spot or location or adjust your desks so that it works?
The new furniture that would come with that second bid that we received would be mobile. We could probably move that. The desks that are steel case, I don't think we can get them apart to get them out of the door if we had to move, so they would probably have to stay for whoever had that space should we move. They're very substantial, very heavy, and I don't think that they would move well. I think that if you tore them apart, getting them back together, they wouldn't reassemble well.
Any other questions? Seeing none, the question before the board is to recommend to the Board of Commissioners approval to spend up to $6,600 to replace the furniture in one probation office, the probation reception office, and one overhead storage unit to a third probation area, with funds to be paid from the capital replacement fund. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Opposed, nay. Motion carries.
Thank you very much.
Next on our agenda is, before we get to does anybody need a break? All righty. Next on the agenda, Colette Scrimger. At this time, the chair would entertain a motion to recommend to the Board of Commissioners approval of the attached grant application that was submitted to the Michigan Department of Licensing and Regulatory Affairs, LARA, Bureau of Medical Marijuana Regulation for the Barry Eaton Health District Department to conduct education, communication, and outreach regarding the Michigan Medical Marijuana Act in Barry County. Is there support?
So moved.
Second?
Been moved by Jackson, supported by Mr. Parker. Colette, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. Right at the end of 2008, towards the last couple weeks of December, we were made aware of the availability of these funds through the state for individual counties. The counties had to be the applicant of it. And it was funds to focus on education around the Medical Marijuana Act. And although that sounds a little bit unusual, the approach that we were looking to take with those funds was to look at harm reduction for youth in our community and prevention and education about safe use. So focusing on things like driving under the influence and trying to bring awareness to that and keeping product safe from access by our youth in the community. So we, after some discussion with Michael about the funds and given the short window of the timing that we had, we didn't have a lot of opportunity to bring it forward to this group in advance. We agreed we'd go ahead and put the proposal together and Barry County would submit it, and then we'd come to one of these first meetings to be able to talk to you about that. So we submitted the proposal that you have seen in your packet. The focus of it is really just about educating the community about safe use, how to store the medication properly, and then focus on driving under the influence and sort of harm reduction along those sorts of messages. What we would be doing is coordinating these efforts around a public media campaign with neighboring communities, so with Eaton County and Ingham County as well. Do some focus groups here locally in Berry County to get some input on what that messaging should look like, and then work with a media consultant to develop the messaging, and then do some purchased media in the community with that messaging that we've coordinated with the other communities. At the same time, we would look at coordinating with the youth summit that the Berry Substance Abuse Coalition facilitates in the spring. And then the last component of the project is to do some surveillance work around utilization of medical marijuana in the community and incorporate some questions around that in our behavioral risk factor surveillance system, which is a survey that we do every year in the community to collect information about behavioral risk factors, and it feeds into our community assessment processes, and many of our coalitions use that information. Much of this work would be coordinated with the Berry Substance Abuse Coalition, so we had to submit this, again, just due to timing, without being able to sit down and talk with the coalition in advance. And so now we'll, as soon as we're able to, we'll get a meeting scheduled, assuming that these funds are approved, and figure out how we tweak the application and tweak the strategies to assure that it's aligning with what work is already being done in the community and not interfering with what's happening. So we'll be able to circle back around and make sure it fits in with some of the purposes that the coalition has, and that we're building on the efforts that already exist here in Berry County.
Thank you. Does any commissioner have any questions for Colette? Commissioner Smolker?
Do you have the personnel to do this, or would you be hiring?
We have personnel who would be doing some of the coordination efforts, but much of the work would be buying media advertisement and working with a consultant to develop the media message. It's $16,000, so most of the dollars would be used to pay for media buys, billboards or commercials, or whatever the group decides is most appropriate for the community.
Do you think that the health department is the best one to do this, or would you think substance abuse would be better to handle this? Seeing that substance abuse does have had classes on this already, right? Some?
I don't know if substance abuse has done classes on this or not. They'd have to answer that. I think it could be either or. Doing this type of prevention and messaging is certainly within our bailiwick as well, but it doesn't have to be us either.
Okay, thank you.
So it's interesting with these funds, although the Medical Marijuana Act has been kind of a work in process, these just came available late, kind of a afterthought almost for.
Yeah, the date on the letter, I have it here, I think was, the letter was November 16th, but it didn't get on our desk at the health department, and I'm not even sure, Michael, if when you became aware of it, I know I brought it to his attention. So in a lot of counties, from what I heard through our networks, weren't aware that the dollars were actually available. So it's sort of a new thing, and I think how it got communicated from the state down was not real clear.
Okay, so this is the first year for this
Right.
particular grant. Do you see something going forward, since we're having this recreational marijuana push now, and obviously a lot of things to work through in the next year? Is there any word in circles from the state, from any of your other resources, that they're going to provide additional funding?
Yeah, at this point, I don't know. Yesterday, I did have a state association meeting where this was discussed, and there were no clear answers from the state on whether these funds will continue into future years or not. And I think it's still a big question.
Okay. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Is substance abuse more of a ongoing thing where this is a kind of a trying to educate people ahead of time, but some of the things can happen with marijuana versus substance abuse, where it would be, it's into the phase of being substance abuse, or what? Or do you have an answer to that?
We would be using these funds, or the purpose of how we wrote these funds was prevention. So it's trying to get the messaging out to our youth population primarily, and to the adults who are using medical marijuana to keep the product safe from kids. So the messaging would be about to the kids to not use it, and then to adults who are using it to be aware of how it's used or not used around kids and keep it safe.
And giving statistics that would show where it could be harmful.
Right.
Any other questions, Mr.
One more. You do have plans to use our substance abuse so that you don't do overlapping things that they're already doing?
Correct. The intent is to coordinate with the coalition and with with Berry County Mental Health and their substance abuse experts to assure that we're in alignment with what they'd like to see happen as well.
Commissioner Smoker?
I guess I would like to, is Liz here?
Yes.
I would like to hear it. Now, do you handle mainly after there is a problem, or you do prevention also?
I'm Liz Lenz. I'm the coordinator of the Berry County Substance Abuse Task Force. We've been around since 2004. The health department is a member, and we have about 35 to 40 active members at any one time. Law enforcement, healthcare, many members are in this room. So we study data, we collect data, we're working together all the time to kind of perceive what the perceptions and the behaviors are in our community, but also what is the youth data, what are some other data indicators. And I've been in front of you, usually about once every 2 years I come in and share some data and talk about what we're doing and how we're using our resources. So let me say this, that I became aware of the grant in early December, and following the protocol did make some outreach movements to see if there was the interest in partnering. Our Substance Abuse Task Force has a steering committee, and our steering committee members could not be here today. They wish they could have been. One is at a training, one is at a funeral, one is out in his patrol car, and one is at the hospital serving patients. So on behalf of them, what I would say is that there was some vagueness to the grant, and the grant did state that it was for the purpose of educating people about medical marijuana. Berry County at the last count had about 800 and, if I did my numbers right, it was 878 card holders. And so sometimes we look at funding and we say, if we have to educate 878 people, is that the best interest of our time? And we would certainly never say no to anything like this. It's just, does it fit in the scope of our mission and our purpose to be the educators about the medical marijuana law to those card holders? Laura's grant was specifically vague. It didn't really say the tenets of this grant are to A, B, and C. It just really said community outreach, education, and some other things regarding the medical marijuana license, or medical act, I think is right. Is that right, Colette? So long story short, we did not pursue it any further. I was on medical leave. I was checking my phone and my emails several times daily, and so I was aware of it. Some other of my colleagues throughout the state were aware of it, and again, the vagueness of it generally, if they did appeal to the counties, you had to have county permission, and at some point, health departments were encouraged to seek that. Some health departments are the Substance Abuse Prevention Coalition. That is not true in Berry County. We are kind of a different, every county has its own coalition. When short-term grants come out, when they come out really quick, you find out about it on, say, December 5th, and it's due on January 1st. In this case, the health department says that they found out about it even later. Sometimes proposals are put together without communicating with partners, and I think that, if I can fairly state this, that I do wish that I had been talked to about the grant before they put together a proposal, because I certainly would have said, yes, we will partner with you. Let's do this, X, Y, and Z. Let's dovetail on some of the work that we've done on our media campaign. Let's look at the data and what we've already been doing. Because anytime money comes into Berry County, we braid our resources, right? We're stronger. That rope is so strong that people can climb it together, okay? So I wish, and hindsight is always 2020. That maybe someone from the health department would have called me. I am so easy to find. People call me at 10 o'clock at night. They text me, they message me on Facebook, I answer, okay? So that being said, they did ask for my approval. They sent me the proposal after Christmas, after Michael had been consulted. They asked for me on behalf of the Substance Abuse Task Force to support it. This is what I will say. As it is written, I have some concerns, but if Colette is coming to the table, and she's coming to the table in good faith, and she's saying, we'd like to do this work, then I hope she wants to do the work with the task force members, on behalf of the task force, on behalf of the mission, and on behalf of what we're already doing, because duplication of efforts is confusing to people. Duplication of messages, even in a small way. We have worked so hard over the last few years to have really defined messaging about however you feel about it. We all agree marijuana is bad for kids. Again, I would say yes, and Colette has come in this morning and said, hey, we would work with you on this. Then I would really say then I would like to have those meetings, and I would like to make sure that that happens. I support this. When we all work together, when the Sheriff's Department gets a grant on underage drinking prevention, or they get a grant on with the word enforcement of drunk driving kind of stuff. Yeah. We support that because that's our mission. We're all working together. So I would support it, but I just want some assurances from Colette and her staff that they will not try to do our work, that they will see that we are, I have 3 Masters of Public Health on staff. We have certified prevention specialists. But beyond that, we have 35 to 40 committed community members that have a dog in the fight too. They want to work together. So thank you for letting me say that. I will always work with anybody as long as it is a congruent mission, purpose, and place.
Is there any other questions? There being no further discussion, the question before the committee is to recommend to the Board of Commissioners approval of the attached grant application that was submitted to the Michigan Department of Licensing and Regulatory Affairs, LARA, Bureau of Medical Marijuana Regulation for the Barry Eaton District Health Department to conduct education, communication, and outreach regarding the Michigan Medical Marijuana Act in Barry County. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay? Item is approved. Thank you. Now, do we need a break? I'm just offering. We sail right through this next one. All right. Next on our agenda is Frank Fiala. Bid for household hazardous waste collection. The chair would entertain a motion to recommend to the Board of Commissioners approval to award the bid for household hazardous waste recycling disposal agreement to Drug and Lab Disposal, Inc., to be paid from the Solid Waste Fund.
So
Frank?
moved.
I need a second.
Second.
Smelker. Seconded. Parker. Anyways, Frank, you've got the floor.
Thank you, and good morning. All of you are aware, I'm sure, that we have the Solid Waste Oversight Committee that we have as a result of having a landfill. It's required by state regulations, and that the 3 or 4 key things that we do as a Solid Waste Oversight Group is we oversee the landfill to be sure that's safe and effective in doing the things it needs to do. And we have the household hazardous waste collection that we do at the Expo Center twice per year. It is the opinion of most of us on the committee that we have a best-of-breed operation there. Runs very, very smoothly, and we get lots of accolades for the things we're doing there. In addition to that, we do some dead deer pickup and some miscellaneous other things that we do. And recycling is one of those major activities that I'll comment about at the end of this discussion. We have been for a number of years, the main things we pick up and we been doing it at the Expo Center. Prior to that, it was done at the Barry County Road Commission, so probably at least for a dozen years or so it's been there. And we've had we mainly pick up pharmaceutical products and work very closely with this group. That's new in the last 2 or 3 years. Very, very effective the way that's occurring. We pick up tires that most of you are aware, and we've been very fortunate to have some grants that we've got in cooperation with Eaton County. So we've been picking up tires at no charge to the people dropping them off, and that's been a really, really big hit. And then the main thing that we pick up are the the batteries and oil and paint and antifreeze and hazardous things in the household that we do not want to go to the landfill. And we've had a company called Drug and Lab do the business with us for probably of the last dozen years that I've been involved, every year but one, and we're very, very happy with what they do. We went to a lower priced bid quite a few years ago, and it turned out to not be as low cost as we thought it might be by the time we were through. And number one, and number two, it just was not as cooperative and helpful. So it is a unanimous recommendation of the Solid Waste Oversight Committee that we accept the bid. We had 2 responses to the RFP, and you're all aware that we worked with Sarah Archer. She helped us distribute this and put it on our website of the RFP, and we got 2 responses. They're very similar in total cost. One of the companies has a setup fee and also is not available for one of our dates. And the Drug and Lab that we've been working with does do that. We think it'll be about the same cost for both of these. I think they're both reputable firms. If you've had an opportunity to look at their responses, they have really good references of the counties that they're doing this household hazardous waste pickup. But it was our unanimous recommendation because of the helpfulness that they have been. They're available for both of the 2 dates that we have for the upcoming year. They help us with the planning, they're very, very helpful with routing traffic and the things that we do. So we're very satisfied with that group. We give them about $18,000 to $20,000 per year typically. And we talked to Michael and to Ben. They thought it would, and members of our committee thought it'd be a good idea to go out for bids and just check the pricing and see what we could do. And they've come back with something that we think is very competitive and very similar to what we'd had in the past. Sorry for all the words, just trying to describe a lot of activities that we have going on.
Anybody have any questions for Frank?
As far as I could tell, Frank, this doesn't change a lot from last year, right?
Doesn't change anything, no. It's just officially getting a 3-year contract to lock in the prices. The prices have not been escalating, and we're very satisfied with that. But we had, when we renegotiated the contract with the waste management, they recommended that we take this out for bids and look at our options. And so we're just, with a combination of Sarah and from our group, that we just went out for bids, and very, very straightforward.
Thank you.
Frank, I know you advertise in just about all the local papers when they're coming out. Sometimes I've had people mention that they can't be there that day to take them over. Is there any other alternative for that at all?
Not that I'm aware of. We had Sarah reach out to she works all over the state, and she'd reached out to a number of organizations, and we only had 2 responses for our format and the dates that we have available. Our dates need to be coordinated with the Expo Center, and we do that years in advance and kind of tuck that in. And basically, that I personally, and I believe that our committee feels that we're just very satisfied with the company, with Drug and Lab. They have really bent over backwards to accommodate.
Is there any way where you could have volunteers that would come and pick stuff up for somebody that couldn't get out, or that type of thing?
We hadn't looked at that piece of it. We actively solicit volunteers to help us run the day, and we have the health department plays a very large role with that, and the sheriff's department is very helpful, and we have the cadets from the police force in Hastings are very, very helpful to us. But we've had challenges getting people to help us with that. We have not reached out to go pick up things and basically to bring them in. We have not done that. That's
okay.
Just not
curious.
Yep.
And the advertising cost is above and beyond this amount here. This is strictly for them getting rid of the waste for us.
Let me try to describe as accurately as I can. The advertising costs are around $3,000 or $4,000 per year, the advertisements that we do. The total budget for the household hazardous waste pickups is just under $30,000 a year. and the piece that drug and lab handles for us. Tires, again, are separate. The pharmaceutical product, the drugs are separate, and many miscellaneous expenses. And so, but they've represented about 18,000 of, say, 28,000, another $10,000 for administrative costs and the other products that we get rid of.
Any further questions? Seeing none. The question before the committee, where did I put my paper? Is to recommend to the Board of Commissioners approval to award the bid for the Household Hazardous Waste Recycling Disposal Agreement to Drug and Lab Disposal, Inc., to be paid from the Solid Waste Fund. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries.
And, Mr. Chairman, if I may take the liberty while I'm here, just a public comment I wanted to make, that you're all aware that we have done a lot with recycling, and we've hired a best-of-breed coordinator, Sarah Archer, from the IRIS organization, working with us. She's been around to all of the 8 major facilities we have that do recycling, and we're just pulling that all together. We pulled together a report. We have a website that we're in the process of asking you to maybe hold the date on the last day of February. The 28th of February is a Thursday at 6 o'clock at night. We're going to have kind of a workshop, kind of a summit of recycling, where we're going to share all the results that we have from the recycling that's going on and share ideas of how we might move forward and kind of come up with kind of a vision and a mission and try to pull that together. And you folks play a very, very vital role. From everything I understand from Sarah and the other experiences we've had with other counties, it really takes county support, and we really need to have, Sarah has confirmed, at least in my judgment, that we need to have some coordination function on an ongoing basis like Sarah's doing now for that to be successful. So we're going to be talking about that at kind of a summit meeting, kind of a workshop at 6 o'clock on that day, and tentatively it's going to be at Jim Brown's Hastings Township Hall, since he has the recycling facility there and has the space available. So we're just putting that letter together. You'll all be getting the letter, as will all the recycling facilities within the county. But just kind of a save the date, if I could put a plug in.
Thank you. Is there any other business to come before the committee? There being no further business, and without objection, the committee will now adjourn.
Any more public comment?
Oh,
Public
you guys
comment.
wanted to talk too, didn't you? Limited public comment. Sorry. I was skipping through, and I'll let you.
Here comes some.
Vanderbilt, Hastings Township. Been stewing for the last couple weeks. Finally came to a head last week for me. So I wanted to write a letter to the editor to express what I feel is the root cause of a lot of our national border issue. And for those of you who haven't read the letter to the editor, I'll read it for you. The United States of America became a sovereign nation via Declaration of Independence from England, followed by the Constitution of the United States, thus forming our republic. Founding fathers saw the necessity of requiring anyone representing this government to make an oath of office. It's out in Article 4, Clause 3 of the U.S. Constitution, if you'd like to read it. Pledging or affirming allegiance to protect and defend the United States, so help me God. This oath of office also is required by the various states and extends all the way to include not only elected officials, but also non-elected servants of the government positions, law enforcement, military, etc. We veterans, anyone who has signed a blank check made out to the citizens of the United States of America for an amount up to and including their life, know all too well the seriousness of this oath. All levels of law enforcement make this same pledge and face the same perils. However, it would appear that a lot of our elected officials do not share the same passion for the United States Constitution and sovereignty of our nation, since they do not support comprehensive border control. Comprehensive border control is absolutely necessary for any nation to protect its sovereignty from threats of military aggression, drug trafficking, terrorism, and even economic overburdening by illegal entry. Too many elected officials take this office with a grain of salt, not realizing the magnitude of responsibility they are accepting by raising their right hand and swearing to protect the nation they live in, but rather support a political or ideological position. Elected folks need to get with it, read and digest the words of the oath they so casually took, and ask themselves if they are being true to that oath. It would appear that some of our more recently elected younger federal representatives seem to think this is more of a game to play. The position to which they were elected is no game. It's serious business. It is serious business. It's not political business. Illegal immigration is illegal. Exceeding the speed limit is illegal. We are a country, a nation of laws. When you break the law, there is a penalty to pay. Not just get free food, free health care, free education, all of the above, and you'll call me a racist or a bigot, and you'll never call me an American patriot. Thank you.
Any further public comment?
Jim Brown, Hastings Township. Just wanted to thank you for supporting the Berry County Solid Waste Oversight Committee with their hazardous waste collection. They do it twice a year. It's very, very good. I would suggest that if anybody can't make it, to maybe get a hold of some of their friends that they could take their material, or B, maybe there's everybody from the Boy Scouts to the 4-H or whatever that could take this for this person, maybe even for a donation. I don't know. I ran into Catherine Geddes yesterday at Thornapple Township, and she told me that the wind is blowing in the right direction to possibly put the Berry County Parks and Rec Commission back together again, put all the parks, including Carlton Township, or Charlton Park. Yeah, God, I didn't think this morning. Underneath that, where it used to be and where it should be. I would highly suggest that that you take a serious look at that and put that back together so that that organization can be built back to where it could be. And I'll make a public thank you to the Banner for the nice article they put in the paper last week for us. Thank you.
Is there any further public comment?
Liz Lenz, Substance Abuse Task Force. I too would like to thank you for approving the solid waste oversight's request. They help us, the Substance Abuse Task Force, and some of our volunteers from Spectrum Health and local law enforcement. We're able to do a medicine collection there 2 times a year where we can accept all medications, controlled or otherwise. And Commissioner Parker, I would answer your question that we want to be careful about people giving their medications to other people to transport because that can get sticky. That can get a little weird. So I'll take this time for a public service announcement to say that we do have several law enforcement permanent medicine collection boxes that can accept controlled and non-controlled substances, and those are placed in the Nashville village offices or the police department. The sheriff's department has one that's in the lobby and is available 24/7. Middleville village officers have one through their police services or sheriff's police services there that's available during the week, and Hastings City Police also has a box that's available during their business hours. We will be adding Berry Township shortly once they have their open house for their new law enforcement offices there. And then there are several pharmacies where you can take your medication. So we have really worked hard in the Substance Abuse Task Force to increase access year-round through pharmacy and law enforcement as well as these events. Additionally, Walgreens, we partner with the Hastings City Police and Walgreens on the National DEA Take Back Day. So all those, the solid waste oversight, our collections have remained strong,
And that is an excellent place for us. And I just am thrilled that we'll be able to continue to partner with the Solid Waste Oversight there. I'd also like to just take this opportunity to tell you that we will have, the Substance Abuse Task Force will be hosting a community overdose prevention training, most likely the week of February 11th. The date hasn't been set yet, but I'll be sure to include a few of you commissioners on my email so you know when it is, so you can share that information. So thank you.
Any other public comment? Seeing none, back where I was. Is there any other business to come before the committee? Seeing none, without objection, the committee will now adjourn.